Former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao allegedly used her position of power as the Transportation Secretary under Trump to essentially use her staff to help family members and to help run a shipping business with ties to China. I'm actually shocked that this is making news now because we already knew in the beginning of Trump's administration that Elaine Chao had some serious conflicts of interest. But a new report by the Transportation Department's Inspector General found that Chao organized an interview, for instance, with a Chinese language television station at the New York City headquarters of her father's shipping company, Foremost Group. The focus of the conversation there was to discuss how Chao's father, James Chao, had been dubbed Chinese Ship King, how Foremost Group ascended to its status in the world, and Dr. Chao's business endeavors. She also told Department of Transportation public affairs staff to help her father, a New York City-based shipping magnate, with marketing for his book, along with developing and in some ways helping to implement a media strategy surrounding his work. So she used her high-profile cabinet position in order to help promote and even help work for the shipping company that's led by her father. And I know that I should be more outraged by this, but given the fact that we're in this political moment where corruption surrounds us all day, every day, I feel numb to it, and I just feel like this isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. I could be wrong. Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, it's 50-50. I agree with you on half of it. So another half is bad, but it's the Trump administration, so it was like probably the least bad of all the things. But it's more run-of-the-mill corruption. So let me explain. The half that I think is not a big deal is she's asking her staff to do certain things. The staff seems to be okay with doing it, and it's like simple things like arranging a car. And she's in the car, but her sister also happens to be in the car, and she runs that giant transportation company. And I'm oversimplifying and probably giving her too much, being too fair to her, right? But look, I always think about it, guys. What if the shoe was on the other foot? Whenever I read stories like this, what if it was about Bernie Sanders or AOC or anyone else that's on our side? It feels a little nitpicky. So I think that half is not that big a deal. Because the question in this case is, should they do a criminal investigation? No, I wouldn't do a criminal investigation over that. I'll just flat out say that, okay? So the other half is more serious, where she goes to, for example, Chinese TV to promote her dad's shipping company while she's the United States Transportation Secretary. Nah, you can't do that. That's crazy. And there was several other instances where she was directly helping her family business while being our transportation secretary. And what I mean by our is the American People's Transportation Secretary. You're not supposed to get these positions and then go, how do I stuff my pockets and my family's pockets full of money? And so there, I think those are legitimate issues. You'd really have to get into the details to see if they're just an ethics violation. And I don't mean to diminish that, that's really important. And they didn't do that either, by the way. Of course, it's the Trump administration. They're like, pardons for everybody that's connected to us. By the way, if she stayed longer, Trump might have changed his mind, because later, he wound up fighting with Mitch McConnell, who's of course Elaine Chao's husband. So vindictively, he probably would have had her arrested if the McConnell and Trump had fought earlier. But on the second half, there is a legitimate question as to whether it's a criminal issue too, and that you can't tell unless you're in a grand jury proceeding, et cetera. So whether it crossed a legal line or not.
Yeah, so the Associated Press reported that the Inspector General said that Justice Department officials ultimately declined to take up a criminal review, saying there, quote, may be ethical or administrative issues, but no evidence to support possible criminal charges. And look, just so I can kind of put this story in the context of our current political climate to explain why it is that I read this story and my reaction is what my dad's reaction would be. Who cares? That's what my dad would say. Is because we currently live under a system where our congressional lawmakers are invested in individual stocks, guys. That's just normal. That's just accepted. They make decisions about regulations that would impact businesses that they are invested in. And that is not considered unethical. It's not considered illegal. And so Elaine Chao is helping her daddy out. Like, I know that's bad. I know it's wrong. But again, our entire system is this. It's just a self-serving, self-enriching, narcissistic scam. And it all needs to be reformed. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, well, so let me pick up on that. On all that, of course, you're 1,000,000,000% right. So look, TYT Investigates did a story about how the last set of Republican governors in Texas all got paid millions of dollars by the energy companies that they deregulated, and that's what led to the disaster in Texas. And one of the CEOs of the energy companies, the George W. Bush, of course, when he was governor of Texas, used to call him J Daddy. Okay, so they're already helping their sugar daddies. So what difference does it make if their sugar daddy is their actual daddy, which is the case in here? The underlying problem is corruption. And Anna's right, our system is, unfortunately these days, since 1978, is built on corruption. That's when the landmark Supreme Court decisions came down, saying that corporations can give unlimited money to politicians through PACs. So that's why another TYT Investigates story from today. Jonathan Larson wrote this. Joe Manchin owns some of the businesses where wages are incredibly low. So if he passes $15 minimum wage, he's gonna cost himself profits. He doesn't want to pay his workers. He wants to pay them as literally the minimum he could pay them. So they're personally benefiting off that. Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue, they did insider trading based on the information they had on COVID. Nobody ever gets punished. But the bottom line, the most important one is the one we say most often, which is campaign contributions are literally millions of dollars, collectively billions of dollars in bribes. They just flat out give people millions of dollars and then they get exactly what they wanted. The politicians work for them completely. They're all bought off. And so when we see a story like this, it almost seems cute. Oh, that's kind of old school. Helping your family get rich by using your government position. That's like old school corruption, the kind they used to do before they made bribery legal in America. So that's why you're getting this visceral reaction of like, wait, is this that big a deal? It's just normal corruption.
And there's something wrong with that reaction. Like, I want to acknowledge that. I mean, I should not be numb to run-of-the-mill corruption with former cabinet members. But to that point, remember, Elaine Chao was confirmed by the Senate. And I remember when we were covering her confirmation hearings, we pointed out that there were conflicts of interest. We pointed out that her father owned a shipping company that had ties to China, and that, hey, maybe you shouldn't confirm her as transportation secretary when that conflict of interest exists. Under the Biden administration, I mean, I wrote a lengthy piece on this for USA Today, explaining all the different nominees for Biden's cabinet who have giant conflicts of interest. So I think when, the Associated Press writes about this ethics investigation into Elaine Chao as if it's like this big breaking news story, it ends up feeling like a giant nothing burger because we knew about that 5 years ago. You get what I'm saying? 4 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.